Doctors from Delaware just returned from helping a hurricane-ravaged Caribbean nation and stopping opioid addiction before it starts. This is the Delaware Way. Welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Hurricane Maria devastated the Caribbean. You've heard a lot about Puerto Rico, but what about a small island nation called Dominica? It was devastated as well, and a team from Delaware went there to help out. Adam Duvernay just got back. He's a News Journal reporter. He traveled with the team. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about Dominica first.
Dominica is an island with about the population the size of Wilmington. It is in the Lesser Antilles, closer to South America than it is to North America, but it is part of an archipelago down there that when Hurricane Maria washed over in mid-September, this island just got ravaged. Many of its neighboring islands survived the blow, but Dominica was 100% affected.
It is strange that a reporter from the News Journal from Delaware Online would travel down there, but you went with the team from Delaware.
The Delaware Medical Relief Team, which is headed by a man named Dr. Ray Agard. He's an internist at Christiana. They've gone to several disaster areas in the past. They went to an earthquake in Haiti, they went to the earthquake in Nepal, and they also do medical missions that are a little bit more planned out. They go overseas where they feel like they have need. The Agard family is from Trinidad, which is nearby Dominica. They kind of felt the call to go down there. We've been fortunate enough to go with them.
How long were you there?
About 10 days.
And what did you see?
Well, we got into the city of Portsmouth, which is in the northwest side of the island, and as soon as you get on the ferry and as soon as you see the island from the Caribbean Sea, you can tell that it's just completely brown. Dominica is called the Nature Island. It is known for its lush rainforests. They've gotten into a lot of ecotourism over the past decade, but it's just devastated. Every leaf is blown off every tree. Houses are toppled. There's half concrete structures still standing where roofs have just disappeared.
And the men and women that came down from Delaware, what did they do? What did you see them do?
They are doctors and nurses, a lot of them from the Christiana area. They showed up there with sort of the intent to set the ground for a next wave of doctors and nurses and then a following wave of doctors and nurses over several months to come and just kind of offer whatever medical assistance they can. We bounced around from the first couple of days from village to village, just looking for a place to be useful. The doctors would set up sort of a temporary clinic wherever they could. We set up in a cantina, we set up in a church, and just kind of invite those villages to come and get checked out. A lot of them needed help with their diabetes or with other problems. They might have fallen off their medical rotation after the storm kind of took away their ability to get those.
It's fascinating that the American territory of Puerto Rico has really sucked up all the media attention and in many ways sucked up all the resources. So a country like Dominica may be shortchanged if it wasn't for volunteers like this.
Well, that's absolutely true. The Dominican government has been calling in for help from wherever it can get. The Caribbean islands look after each other for these situations in a lot of ways, but the EU, the British Commonwealth, the United Nations, all have been trying to draw attention there. Even while we were there, the United Nations Secretary General showed up on the island, and it was the first time a UN Secretary General had been to Dominica and said essentially, we need to do better here. 100% of the island was affected.
So aside from medical attention, what did they need?
Building supplies. One of the primary reasons that once the Delaware Medical Relief Team actually got to sit down with the government about 5 days into the trip, one of the reasons that they were so excited to work with the people from Delaware was that Dr. Agard had brought his brother along, who is a construction expert. And he's planning to come back on a third wave with bringing more construction people with him because building supplies are even in short supply there. You need tin for roofs, even nails, these kind of things.
I've traveled to disaster areas before, and you're a reporter, so you're very attentive to what's going on. Is there an image that stuck out to you?
One of the most powerful moments of the trip was one of the last moments. It was the final day that we were there. We had bounced around from hurricane shelter to hurricane shelter in Portsmouth, visiting people that we had seen when we first got there. We pulled up to a high school that had been housing about 80 people since the storm, on and off. And the nurses there, they found a man who hadn't had water for 2 days. He'd been sort of left alone in this room. He could barely move. They had to come in and change his dressing, change his diaper, give him sustenance. It really hit the nurses hard. It was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back at that point. They'd seen so much for so many days, and then there was this one man almost completely helpless and abandoned, and they broke down and cried, and it was a moment.
Because it's hard to imagine, because he's basically hiding in plain sight, right? You're saying that he's in an area with a whole lot of other people, and did he not ask for help? I mean,
he barely could, and it was unfortunate that it did seem that he had been neglected. We learned that maybe his family had to flee and left him there. He was an old man, and it seemed like he was in a pretty bad spot.
Are we doing enough? Is the United States doing enough for these other countries?
The United States has thrown its resources at Dominica the way that it should. Puerto Rico is getting a lot of help from us. It's one of our territories, same with Miami and same with Houston. But Dominica could use as much resources and outside assistance as possible.
How many countries are there like Dominica that were hit by Maria that we're not paying attention to?
Maria really, when it swept over the Caribbean, really hit Dominica the hardest. There are islands that are literally right next to it that are emerald green from the sea. They're shining, lush, tropical, still thriving, but just the path of the storm took it right over Dominica. So if there's one island that's down there that needs help, it's Dominica.
My feeling is that many people, like myself, I'll admit, many people that are listening to this right now never heard of Dominica. This is the first time they've heard about it. But now that they've heard about it, I know the people of Delaware and the people of the area, I'm sure they care. Is there something they can do?
I would have them reach out to Hands International. That is the group that is sort of the parent organization for the Delaware Medical Relief Team. They're the ones that have been going down there the most. They're the ones that have currently the best, game plan for the area for helping that particular part of the country. I've been getting calls and emails from people who are, Delaware residents now, but born in Dominica or born in Trinidad, and they want to help out too. So.
You said this was the first trip down. Are there people going down again?
The second team left just on Sunday. They had some difficulties planning getting down there because of flight costs. You have to take a ferry onto the island at this point. Which can be both expensive and time-consuming and difficult to get bags of medicine on to the ferry. But on Sunday they left, and they should probably be there now.
Well, great. Well, thank you for telling us about it. Thank you for going down and your reporting on this, and thank God for the people from Delaware that went down to help out.
I think they did great work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. Adam Duvernay, News Journal reporter, also writes for Delaware Online, where you can see his stuff. When we come back, the opioid crisis has hit Delaware hard. We'll have an update for you when the Delaware Way continues.